It's an all football episode today coming for you with the NFL and college football. Our NFL Fantasy Football League that we're doing with the podcast draft was on this past Saturday, August 22nd. You can find all of those streams on our YouTube channel. So make sure to see what the draft actually looked like and who was picked there. I'm going to cover all the rosters today with graphics and everything. And as we move into the season, I'm going to be having every one of those podcast Fantasy Football League players on the show, actually explaining, giving their analysis on their fantasy team. And this is what I want with the Fantasy League. Just explaining to them, giving more insight on to what their fantasy team is all about. And on college football segment, we have a lot to talk about, as obviously the big news, Big Ten and Pac-12 canceled their season, SEC, Big 12, and ACC go ahead in their season, so all the analysis is there. I'm going to talk about that, all for college football. It's going to be a big college football segment, a big NFL segment, a big football podcast today, all coming up on All the Talk, All the Sports. Let's talk some college football, as that is my favorite sport in all of sports. That's my favorite sport league, a favorite thing to watch just to keep up with. College football, that's it. I'm actually going to be doing a lot more college football episodes on this channel and on another channel on Sportscaster. My Sportscaster account where I'll be doing play-by-play games, not just for college football, but also doing college football episodes. So definitely my favorite sports league is college football. So a lot to talk about today. Like I mentioned before, obviously the big news, the Big Ten and Pac-12 cancel their season along with the MAC in the FBS. Those are the only three so far out of the 10. Two of those are Power 5s. I'm going to get in depth with that. So let's just get right into it. When we look at all Power 5 conferences across the nation, there's 5. It's the Pac-12, the Big 12, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 10. That makes up the Power 5, but what makes it interesting about college football is the Power 5 conferences. It's not like there's one head for NCAA, and that is just the spokesperson of it all. So each Power 5 conference is essentially its own little tower standing in a field. You can look at it like that. So whatever decision these conferences make are going to be different than the next conference over. It's not going to be the exact same situation, the exact same ordeal, you could say. It's just going to be different for every conference. The Big Ten and the Pac-12, they obviously did it the same way. But even when the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12 are playing, they're all playing in different types of scenarios and different situations, so I'm going to get into that actually right now. So I'm going to talk about the Pac-12 first. The Pac-12 was the second conference in the Power 5 to cancel, probably about 2 hours after the Big Ten canceled their season, so they followed behind, and that's kind of their thought on it. The Pac-12 is not a huge conference, but what I have to say about the Pac-12 is they're not getting as much hate as the Big Ten is, which doesn't make a lot of sense, considering they just followed basically what the Big Ten did. They are not getting not the riots, but the protests that the parents, players, staff, and everyone in the organizations, the fans, are giving the Big Ten. So I think the Pac-12 schools actually respect the Pac-12's decision more than the Big Ten schools and fan bases respect the Big Ten's decision on canceling the college football season. So yeah, I think that's the Pac-12. They've lucked out, kind of, not gotten too much hate, but now I'm going to talk about the Big Ten. And as you've seen, Justin Fields started a petition to reinstate the Big Ten season. Later, 2 days after that, the Big Ten released a statement saying they would not revisit the season in the fall. And that is a lot of hate from the Big Ten, and there is so much to talk about there, with Kevin Warren being the commissioner, canceling the season, being the first Power 5 to cancel their season. And I think he thought that other conferences were going to follow, and obviously the Pac-12 followed, but the other three didn't, and that's what college football kind of works, coming in a full circle. Every conference is their own thing, and I think Kevin Warren thought he was going to be the hero, but now he is definitely not the hero in this situation at all. He is getting so much hate and so much disrespect from Big Ten fans, players, and parents of players. So the Big Ten, I want to get in depth into that in that decision making. So essentially, there was a vote with presidents of the universities, and Kevin Warren obviously is kind of the spokesperson. So it's not 100% his fault, but he is at a lot of fault for this, of the canceling of the season. But it's the presidents of the universities and the athletic directors. But I've watched so many interviews, countless interviews. The athletic directors mostly wanted to play a season. It's the presidents of the schools and Kevin Warren that made the final decision of canceling the fall football season. So the coaches want to play, the players want to play, the game day staff wants to play, the fans want to play, and then they come in and make the decision not to play with a bunch of reasons that they released later, the Big Ten released. But I think there should be a fall college football season for every college football conference, because now we look at guys like this, like not Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. He was arguably going to be one of the best picks in the draft this year, but now if they have a spring season or no season at all, how does that hurt his draft class? Does he come back and actually come back and play in the 2021 fall season and not go this year with Trevor Lawrence and go next year? So there's a lot of things that go into the decision making of this. I disagree with the decision. I'm just going to give my opinion right away. I disagree with the decision. I think the Pac-12 and the Big Ten made a bad decision, and I think they should both be playing a fall football season. And I know it is for the safety, and I'm not saying the safety of the players and staff doesn't matter. The safety of the players and staff matters all the most. But when you look at it like this, I think personally the way the Big Ten and Pac-12, with all the money that goes into the athletic program, I think how they would handle it would be safer than the kids actually not playing college football and just being on campus with regular students. So I think they would be able to handle it safely, and I think the reasoning that they canceled this season was the wrong decisions because I think of the safety. And a lot of people always talk about the college football players' safety, right? They always are talking about the players. What about the coaches and game day staff? And this is kind of where you could flip side the argument, because the players, the age group that they're in, like 18 to 24, they're super healthy guys. The chances of them getting sick are very limited, and getting the symptoms that the COVID-19 pandemic has, then compared to coaches some coaches go into their 70s, and the game day staff and the trainers on the sideline who are more at higher risk. So yeah, the players want to play 100%. But then again, they're going to want to play. They're college football players at D1 institutions. And then the coaches over here and everyone else on that sideline on those Saturdays, that's where you got to look at the safety as well. And that's where I do respect the Pac-10 and the Pac-12 and Big Ten's decision. That, in one aspect, I do, for the safety of the coaches, the staff, the medical staff, everyone involved in a game, making that happen on Saturdays. Overall, like I said, I think they should be playing a false college football season, because at the end of the day, they are their own conference. And that's where it comes into play, because now the NCAA has released their Division I college football playoff schemes. And their playoff dates, excuse me. I forget what they are, but they've released the semifinals and finals match dates. So now, even if the Big Ten and Pac-12 have a spring season, now the spring season doesn't mean anything. And you're going to see guys like Justin Fields and big running backs, Miles Sanders, not Miles Sanders, oh my gosh, Micah Parsons from Penn State, and all the guys across the Big Ten, everyone that is a skill level, opt out because that season means nothing. And they're just going to want to play in that fall, and they won't have the high turnover rate of going from a spring season right into a fall season, right? So that's where that comes into play. Now that you might have guys opt out of a spring season if a spring season does happen. Now, this also hints, now I'm going to talk about more the SEC, ACC, and Big 12. Now that the playoff dates have been released, and you know that the Big 10 and Pac-12 are done, now you want to keep playing. You want to keep playing that season. You want that season to be complete. Media ratings go up, TV ratings go up. There's going to be more money coming into your program that people can't watch the Big 10 and Pac-12. Now they go be fans of the SEC, ACC, and Big 12. And your money's going to go up. Your TV ratings are going to go up. Your market value and your respect that you get as a conference like the Big 12, mind you, not the best conference in college football, is going to go up compared to the Big 10 and Pac-12. And also, now you eliminate teams like Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan from the Big 10, Oregon. You're going to eliminate USC, Utah. Those 7 teams that I just mentioned, 4 from the Big 10, 3 from the Pac-12, Washington from the Pac-12, another Pac-12 team, all have a chance to make the college football playoffs. You just wiped out 8 teams. And now if you're Big 12 conference, who usually only sends Oklahoma, you might be sending a second team. You might get your chances for sending Oklahoma to the college football playoff skyrocket. And then the SEC with so much talent. I think at the end of the day, there is a chance that the SEC has 3 teams in the college football playoffs this 2020 fall season into 2021 winter, where the actual playoffs will be. I think the SEC could send 3 college football teams to the playoffs. And I think the ACC gets 1 or 2 in there, and the Big 12 gets 1 or 2 in there. Flip-flop. It is very early to predict. And it's going to be interesting because now there's no non-conference set schedule from the NCAA. It's kind of their own conferences just going at it. So the SEC, they start September 26th. They are not doing any out-of-conference games, I don't believe. They just go right into conference September 26th. Big 12 starts September 12th that weekend. They start conference play the 26th, and the ACC starts September 12th as well that weekend, and they start conference play that weekend as well. But other teams also play out-of-conference games that weekend as well. So there's a lot to look at here. And the Big Ten resulting in them canceling their season. Now I'm going to talk about if they do have a spring season, the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. If they have a spring season now the money goes from the baseball programs and the spring sports programs and goes to the football program, and I personally don't think that's fair at all. I think that the money belongs in the baseball department of that certain school, and I think that it belongs in the spring sports, tennis, everything else, every other spring sport. The TV should go to those sports. It's not fair to the players. It's not fair to the people that put in so much work into those spring sports, but it's just not as hip and hype mastered as college football. Because Big Ten baseball is not that big. But there are games on Big Ten Network, and there is a little bit of hype in the Big Ten. Now all of that goes to the Big Ten football. Then you also got to look at schools like the Northwestern, a highly prestigious academic school. Now all their academic money, all their spring sports money that doesn't have that much money to begin with in their athletic department for spring sports goes to football. So now these spring sports in Northwestern, you might even possibly see them be canceled for the spring of 2021 season. I'm trying to think of schools that don't have a lot of money in their athletic programs. Northwestern, definitely one of them. I'm trying to think of some in the Pac-12. Rutgers, not much money goes in there. Just the schools like that. The low-budget schools that the media doesn't talk about so much. That's where you're going to see Cal Cal, Berkeley. Just those schools, it's going to hurt them indefinitely if they have to play college football in the spring. So, if in my opinion, this is how I would do it. If I was the commissioner of all of NCAA and it was just pumping out one thing, once at all, I think normal college football season, no fans in the stands, every conference toughs it out for a title, and in January, the college football playoff win. But unfortunately, I don't get to make that decision, and if I had to make decisions right now with the exact situations that are going on, I would say the Big Ten should not, in the Pac-12, don't play. I would say no spring season, just go straight into fall of 2021. It gives the players more rest, gives them time, not just coming off of a huge spring season. So I think you would skip out 2020 season completely. No spring season, just go right into the fall of next year where everything counts. I think this whole thing's a mess. You could look at it from so many different vantage points. And the SEC, all the Power 5 conferences are dealing with the same exact situations. But why did the Big Ten and Pac-12 cancel? I don't know. I don't agree with this decision at all. Pac-12, Big Ten, and all of college football should be playing this year. And Kevin Warren, his son, Powers Warren, plays at Mississippi State, an SEC school. And here's what I have to say about this. Kevin Warren is putting more trust in Mississippi State, an SEC school. He's putting more trust in Mississippi State than he is in any of his Big Ten programs that he commissions. He's the commissioner of. Excuse my English. But he's putting more trust in Mississippi State, an SEC school that he has no control over, than he is putting in any trust in all 14 of his Big Ten football programs. So that's how I feel about that. I think college football should be played as normal this year. Unfortunately, it's not going to be. I do think the SEC, Big 12, and ACC play a normal season, and you'll see college football in January. That's my opinions on it. Now let's talk about some NFL to wrap up this main part of the sports action. Stick around for the end of the podcast where there's some big news coming. Here is the part where I will be announcing all of the fantasy football players roster. The draft was this past Saturday, August 22nd. Make sure to check out those streams. So let's get right into it. As I suspect, this will take a little bit of time to go through all 12 rosters. My quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford, Mike Evans, and Kenny Golladay are my receivers. Ezekiel Elliott is one of my running backs. He fell all the way to 11, picked him up as my first-round pick. Dalvin Cook's my other running back, Hunter Henry, Michael Gallup, Le'Veon Bell, Tyler Higbee, Gardner Minshew, Adrian Peterson, Justin Jefferson, Larry Fitzgerald, Greg Zuerlein, and Buffalo defense and Tennessee defense. So that is those are my players. That is my roster. So now Matthew's team, he is the team that is second in the league right now. Patrick Mahomes is his quarterback, Stephon Diggs, Courtland Sutton, Nick Chubb, Melvin Gordon, George Kittle's his tight end, T.Y. Hilton's his flex for this week, Jordan Howard, Drew Lock, Tyler Hockenson, Shepard, Sony Michel, A.J. Green, Keyshawn Vaughn, and Seattle defense is his defense. He only has one defense. Next, we have Braden's team. He's got Tom Brady as his quarterback, DK Metcalf, and Julian Edelman at receiver. Running back is his Alvin Kamara, Devil Singletary, and then Darren Walker, and John Brown. He's also got Daniel Jones as his backup quarterback. He's got Anthony Miller, Greg Olsen, Marlon Mack. Who else? He's got Christian Kirk, Matt Prater as his kicker, Young Ho Koo, and Los Angeles defense and New Orleans defense. Team Maxwell Lawler, he's got Josh Allen at quarterback, Tyreek Hill, and Jarvis Landry at receiver. He's got Ronald Jones as running back, David Montgomery as a running back, Ian Smith Jr., tight end, Juju Smith-Schuster as his flex, Jason Witten, Nick Foles, Cam Akers, Cooks, Edmonds, Washington, and Lazard, and are his bench players. Harrison Butker and San Francisco defense are his kicker and defense. So, Cash Money Kelton Falk, he does not set his starting lineup yet, but he's got Lamar Jackson, Joe Mixon, Odell Beckham Jr., Zach Ertz, Eric Ingram, Matt Ryan, Kareem Hunt, Slayton, Williams, Madison, Ryan Tannehill, Disley, Bridgewater, and he's got 2 kickers in Will Lutz, Fairbairn, and he's got the Dallas defense. Eli Hauser, he's got Dak Prescott at quarterback, Adam Thielen at receiver, Calvin Ridley at receiver as well, Saquon Barkley, Clyde Edwards-Helaire are his running backs, Hayden Hurst is his tight end, Josh Jacobs is his flex, Woods, Robinson, Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, one of my favorite players ever, Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Ayuk, and Henderson. His kickers are Myers, and his defense is Denver's defense. So, Team Moyer, Caden Moyer, he's got Deshaun Watson at quarterback, Chris Godwin, Chark, Drake, White, Andrews, and Brown, Hollywood Brown, Joe Burrow on his bench, Henry Ruggs, Coleman, Fant, Tagovailoa. He's got 3 quarterbacks on his roster, and Antonio Brown. I don't even know why he took them. He took him. Justin Tucker's his kicker, and he's got Los Angeles defense and the Rams defense and Houston's defense. Steelers squad is Caden Klein's team. He had the first overall pick. He's got Kyler Murray, A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, Christian McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, Eric Ebron, Tyler Boyd, Johnson again, Gesicki, Scott, Samuel, Harry, Cohen are his bench, Boswell's his kicker, and Steelers defense is his defense. He's got a lot of Steelers on his roster as we move on to Michael Goad's fantasy football team. He's got Wentz at quarterback, Michael Thomas and Julio Jones are his receivers, Austin Eckler and Todd Gurley are his running backs, Hooper and Keenan Allen. Hooper's his tight end, Keenan Allen is his flex, Parker, Newton, Swift, Jones, Breida, Pollard, and Everett are his bench. Zane Gonzalez is his kicker, and he's got Chicago's defense. We now go to Brock's team. He did not fill his roster yet. Jared Goff, he took him 10th overall, his first-round pick. Not so sure I agree with that. But Jared Goff, Miles Sanders, Amari Cooper, Aaron Rodgers. I'd start Aaron Rodgers over Jared Goff. Jared Cook, Mark Ingram, Tyler Lockett, Janu Smith, I don't even know how to say his name, Sammy Watkins, Jarwin, Murray, not Kyler Murray, and Ben Roethlisberger. Dan Bailey and Mason Crosby are his kickers. Baltimore and New England are his defense. It's a pretty stacked team with a lot of, not stacked, they're a bunch of average players with a bunch of depth, though, so that could help later in the season. As we go to Mason Shelak's team, he got Russell Wilson, Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, Mozart, CeeDee Lamb, Leonard Fournette, Cameron Kupp, Kirk Cousins, Phillip Lindsay, Johnson, Doyle, Gibson. He's got Gould and Elliott as his kickers, and Kansas City and Minnesota's defense. And the last team is Jay Wolf. He didn't set his roster either. Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins, Drew Brees, Moore, DJ Moore, Chris Carson, Rob Gronkowski, David Johnson, James Conner, Jimmy Garoppolo, Will Fuller, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Reagor, Mecole Hardman, and Justin Jackson. Is that his name? Yeah, Will Fuller V. I knew that. I didn't think I knew it, but I guess I did. And Lambeau is his kicker, and he's got the Philadelphia defense. So that is basically the fantasy teams. That's who everyone has on their team. Stay tuned for podcasts coming up in this in the fantasy football season as we move into the football season. And this is the section I've been dreading the whole podcast. This is where I have to say that due to I started high school today again for this school year. I have a job, and I have this podcast I run, and these videos take me upwards of 3 hours to pump out. It may not seem like it, but they take me about 3 hours to make. So unfortunately, I will not be having a set date for videos anymore. It will no longer be Mondays and Thursdays. It'll just be whenever I get around to making videos based on my work schedule, my school schedule, and obviously this. So I will not have a set date of the video releasing, so that's why this one's coming to you on a Wednesday, and I haven't made one in a while. So I'm going to keep trying to make 2 a week, but don't be shocked if it's only 1 a week. So I'm going to definitely try my hardest to get 2 a week out every week, 2 episodes, hopefully. If not, there'll at least be 1 episode a week. So I'm going to start moving into more college football stuff now, so hopefully you like college football. And make sure to go follow College Kingdom on Sportscaster, where I'll be talking a lot about college football there as well. Thank you so much for watching, and stay safe and healthy, and have a great day.